He stood at the edge of his creation, watching the city breathe beneath him. The towers he designed stretched like monuments to ambition, each window a tiny eye reflecting his solitude. They called him the architect of loneliness, but he knew better. This wasn't isolation born from rejection or failure. It was something deeper, something chosen. The blueprints in his hands weren't just building plans but blueprints of a life deliberately constructed away from the masses. His apartment became his laboratory, where theories took shape on paper and dreams materialized in miniature. Each night, while the city slept or partied, he worked. The rain against glass became his soundtrack, the glow of his desk lamp his only companion. People thought he was hiding from something, running from connection. But what they failed to understand was that here, in this controlled environment, he was finally becoming himself. They saw the hollow eyes and called it depression. They saw the silence and called it antisocial behavior. But each mirror that caught his reflection told a different story. Here was someone who had looked inward so deeply that he had discovered territories others couldn't even imagine. The weight of understanding his own nature was heavier than their shallow judgments, but it was his to carry. The halls of learning had become his sanctuary, not for the knowledge they promised but for the space they offered. While professors droned about conformity and fitting in, he sat in the back row, scribbling his own philosophy. The empty seats around him weren't symbols of failure but altars to independent thought. Each lecture became material for his internal debates, each lesson filtered through his unique lens. The streets teemed with bodies, but he moved through them like a ghost through the living. Faces blurred into one another, voices became white noise, but his path remained crystal clear. They thought his solitude was a curse, a punishment for not belonging. What they couldn't comprehend was that in this sea of sameness, he had become the only real thing moving through an illusion. Between the stacks of human knowledge, he found his congregation. Each book was a conversation with minds that had chosen depth over breadth, solitude over superficial connection. The librarian stopped noticing his presence, his regular pilgrimages to the same corner where philosophy met architecture met psychology. Here, among the voices of those who had walked this path before, he felt less alone in his aloneness. His hands moved with the precision of someone who understood that creation required discipline. Each line was deliberate, each measurement a commitment to excellence. While others rushed through life seeking quick validation, he built his monuments slowly, carefully, perfectly. The tools of his trade became extensions of his soul, translating internal visions into external reality. The city had taught him to find peace in paradox. Here, thousands of feet above the chaos, surrounded by his own green experiments, he discovered what others spent lifetimes searching for in crowds. The plants grew according to their nature, not his whims, and in their independence he found his own. This rooftop became his temple, where solitude met serenity. The mirror had always lied to people, showing them what they wanted to see or what society expected them to become. But he had learned to look beyond reflection into reality. While others saw themselves as part of the crowd, he saw the crowd as part of himself. The difference wasn't in being alone, but in being complete within that aloneness. The stage had always been his second home, where performance met authenticity. While others needed applause to validate their existence, he found power in the monologue delivered to silence. Each word was crafted not for approval but for truth. The empty seats weren't rejection but opportunity, space for his voice to echo without interference from the noise of others. The cafe became his observation post, where he studied humanity without participating in its games. Faces told stories, conversations revealed patterns, but he remained the silent chronicler. His coffee grew cold while his mind grew warm with understanding. They thought he was antisocial, but he was simply social in a way they couldn't comprehend. Art galleries taught him that beauty didn't require witnesses to exist. The masterpieces hung in silent judgment of those who passed by without seeing. He stood before canvases for hours, letting color and form speak directly to his soul. While others rushed from piece to piece seeking social validation, he found entire worlds in single moments of artistic truth. The ocean had no opinion about his choices, the sand recorded his steps without judgment. Here, among the ancient rhythms of tide and wind, he found his natural habitat. While civilization buzzed with artificial urgency, nature moved at its own pace, teaching him that being alone wasn't the same as being lonely. The horizon stretched infinitely, matching the possibilities within him. The subway became his moving meditation, where the city's pulse could be felt without participation. Faces blurred past, each carriage a different world, but he remained constant in his corner seat. The rumble of wheels on tracks matched his internal rhythm, the stop-and-go of urban life reflecting his own journey between connection and solitude. Sacred spaces had always understood him better than secular ones. Here, among the echoes of centuries of prayer and contemplation, his silence felt appropriate. The stained glass told stories in light while he told his story in stillness. No priest needed to validate his spirituality, no congregation to witness his devotion to his own truth. While the city emptied for the night, his office filled with purpose. The glow from his window was a beacon to those who understood that excellence required sacrifice. They called it workaholism, but he called it dedication to craft. Each project was a conversation with his future self, each design a bridge between his vision and reality. The mountain didn't care about his social status or his relationship history. It only cared about his ability to climb, to push beyond what others thought possible. At the summit, with arms spread wide, he felt the pure joy of self-reliance. The view stretched infinitely, matching the scope of his ambitions and the depth of his solitude. Music halls understood the difference between loneliness and aloneness. Here, in the embrace of acoustic perfection, he found his voice without needing others to hear it. Each note was a conversation with silence, each melody a bridge between his inner world and the structured chaos of sound. The empty seats weren't abandonment but opportunity for pure expression. Even the doctors had misunderstood his condition. Sitting in that comfortable chair, looking out at the world they thought he was missing, he explained that he wasn't broken, just different. The diagnosis of social anxiety didn't fit someone who chose solitude rather than suffered from it. His therapist learned that some people needed aloneness to become whole. The wedding hall represented everything society expected, but he had chosen differently. Sitting at the head table meant for celebration, he felt no loss, only relief. The empty chairs weren't rejection but liberation. While others danced to social rhythms, he composed his own symphony, finding joy in movements that others couldn't hear. His studio became the church where he preached his gospel of individuality. Each brushstroke was a rejection of conformity, each color a celebration of uniqueness. The canvas didn't judge his technique or question his vision. It simply absorbed his truth and reflected it back in ways that words never could, creating beauty from the marriage of solitude and creativity. Airports had always fascinated him as places of intentional transition. While others rushed from gate to gate seeking destinations, he sat and watched the flow of human intention. The closed shops and quiet halls spoke to him of moments between moments, spaces where identity could be reconsidered without social pressure. Here, in transit between places, he found himself in permanent transit toward authenticity. The restaurant buzzed with manufactured intimacy while he dined in genuine self-company. Faces around him blurred into background noise, conversations became ambient sound, but his meal remained a celebration of self-sufficiency. They thought eating alone was tragic, but he knew it was triumphant. Each bite was appreciation for his ability to nourish himself without dependence. The dormitory door stood open like an invitation to understanding. While others filled their rooms with shared experiences and group activities, his space reflected his inner world. Books stacked like small monuments to independent thought, personal items arranged with intentional meaning. The empty hallway wasn't abandonment but liberation from the noise of collective living. The bridge connected two sides of the city, but he stood at its center, belonging to neither and both simultaneously. The river below carried the city's reflections away while he carried his own truth forward. Lights danced on the water like scattered dreams, each one someone else's hope, but his glow came from within, steady and self-sustaining. In the silence of his meditation chamber, he found the voice that society had tried to silence. Each breath was a rejection of external definitions, each moment of stillness a return to authentic self. The empty space around him wasn't deprivation but abundance, not lack but liberation. Here, in the temple of his own making, he became the architect of his own becoming,